In just 10 chapters, I will show you how to dismantle the fortress of anxiety and walk through the world with a heart of stone. We spend our lives borrowing, suffering from a tomorrow that may never arrive, haunted by ghosts of what if and shadows of uncertainty. But fear is not your master, it is merely a mistake in your judgment. Drawing from the wisdom of the ancient Stoa, we will learn to ground ourselves in the present and build an inner citadel that no external storm can breach. Your fear ends here. Let us begin. Chapter 1: The Ghost of the Future. We are a species that lives in the elsewhere. While our bodies are seated in the present, our minds are often miles away, or years away, wandering through a dark forest of things that might happen. Seneca, a man who faced exile, shipwreck, and the whims of a mad emperor, observed a profound truth. We suffer more often in imagination than in reality. Think of your anxiety. It is a weight you carry for a burden that hasn't been placed on your shoulders yet. You are sweating over a meeting that hasn't started. You are grieving a loss that hasn't occurred. You are fighting a battle that exists only in the theater of your mind. The Stoic calls this false opinion. To the Stoic, anxiety is the result of a mind that has forgotten its place. You have wandered out of the now, the only territory you actually own, and you have tried to colonize the future. But the future is a land of shadows. It is populated by infinite possibilities, most of which will never come to pass. When you feel that cold knot in your stomach, that fluttering in your chest, stop. Realize that your mind is trying to solve a problem that doesn't exist yet. You are trying to prepare for a maybe. And because a maybe has no solid form, you can never truly defeat it. You are shadow boxing with ghosts. Marcus Aurelius sat in his tent on the Danubian frontier, with the weight of an empire on his back and enemies at the gates, and he wrote these words to himself: "Never let the future disturb you. You will meet it, if you have to, with the same weapons of reason which today arm you against the present." Read that again. The weapons of reason. The tools you are using to survive this very second, your breath, your logic, your endurance, are the exact same tools you will use tomorrow. If you can handle this moment, you can handle any moment. Anxiety is the lie that you will be helpless when the bad thing arrives. But you have survived every bad thing life has thrown at you so far. Your track record for getting through difficult days is 100%. The ghost of the future feeds on your uncertainty. It wants you to believe that not knowing is the same as danger. But not knowing is simply the nature of the universe. The Stoic does not demand to know what is coming. The Stoic only demands that they remain virtuous regardless of what comes. Today, when your mind tries to sprint ahead into next week or next year, gently, but firmly, pull it back. Tether it to the task at hand. The cup of coffee in your hand. The air in your lungs. The work on your desk. You do not need to figure out the rest of your life today. You only need to be the master of this single, solitary breath. Chapter 2: Defining the Fear. Most of our terror thrives in the dark. Anxiety is a shapeshifter. It prefers to remain vague, a heavy cloud that hangs over our lives without a name. We say, "I'm stressed," or "I'm worried about work," but we rarely go deeper. We leave the fear in the shadows, where it can grow as large as it wants. Seneca knew that the mind is a coward when it is confused, but a king when it is clear. He taught that we must drag our fears into the light and demand that they identify themselves. We must move from "I am afraid" to "I am specifically afraid of this happening." Think of a child who is terrified of a dark closet. To the child, the closet contains 1,000 monsters. But the moment a parent walks over and flips the light switch, the monsters vanish. All that remains is a pile of clothes and an empty floor. Your anxiety is that dark closet, and your logic is the light switch. To conquer fear, you must perform what the Stoics call the definition of the fear. Take your greatest worry and put it under a microscope. Stop using general words like failure or ruin. Be precise. If you are afraid of losing your job, define it. What exactly would happen? You would lose your income. You would have to cut your spending. You might have to move. You would have to look for a new role. Is that the end of the world? No. It is a series of problems with a series of solutions. It is a difficult season, but it is not a death sentence. By defining the fear, you realize that you are not afraid of a monster, you are afraid of an inconvenience. We are often more afraid of the feeling of being afraid than we are of the event itself. We fear the shame of failure more than the failure. We fear the awkwardness of a conversation more than the conversation. The Stoic asks, what is the worst that can happen? When you truly answer that question, when you follow the thread all the way to the end, you find something remarkable. You find that you could survive it. Even the most catastrophic outcomes usually leave you with your character intact. And if you have your character, you have everything. Practice this today. Take one thing that is making your heart race and write it down. Strip away the dramatic language. Strip away the what ifs. Look at the bare facts. Ask yourself, is this thing actually happening right now? If the answer is no, then your fear is a lie. If the answer is yes, then your fear is useless, because the time for fear has passed and the time for action has begun. Do not allow your mind to be a haunted house. Be the master of the house who walks from room to room, opening every door and shining a light into every corner. You will find that the monsters you feared were nothing more than shadows cast by your own imagination. The more you define your world, the less you will fear it. Chapter 3: The Premeditation of Evils. Most of us spend our lives playing a game of hide and seek with tragedy. We believe that if we don't think about bad things, they won't happen. We treat the future like a fragile glass vase that will shatter if we even look at it the wrong way. The Stoic knows this is a dangerous delusion. By avoiding the thought of disaster, you make yourself its victim. When that bad thing eventually happens, and in a long life, it always does, you are caught off guard. You are crushed because you were unprepared. The cure is premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. This is the practice of sitting quietly and deliberately visualizing everything you are afraid of actually coming true. Visualize the phone call you dread receiving. Visualize the doctor giving you the bad news. Visualize the bank account hitting zero, the fire taking your home, the person you love walking out the door. This sounds like a dark, morbid exercise. But its purpose is the opposite of despair. Its purpose is invincibility. When you rehearse the worst in your mind, you perform a mental vaccination. You expose your soul to a small, controlled dose of the hardships so that when the real event arrives, you are immune to the shock. You have already lived it. You have already seen that, even in the ruins, you can still breathe. You can still think. You can still be a person of character. Seneca once wrote, "The man who has anticipated the coming of troubles takes away their power when they arrive." Anxiety is 90% shock and only 10% event. By removing the shock, you drain the anxiety of its blood. Think of a boxer. A boxer who is blindfolded will be knocked out by a single light tap because they didn't see it coming. But a boxer who is focused can take a heavy blow to the chin and stay standing, because they expected the hit. They were braced for it. You must brace your soul. Ask yourself, if I lost everything tomorrow, what would I do in the first hour? The first day? The first month? You will find that you have a plan. You will find that you have inner resources you didn't know existed. You will realize that while these events are dispreferred, they are not catastrophic. Premeditatio malorum turns the unthinkable into the manageable. It transforms a terrifying monster into a technical problem to be solved. But there is a secondary effect to this practice, a beautiful one. When you realize that everything you love could be taken away in an instant, you stop taking it for granted. When you visualize losing your partner, you find yourself more patient with them tonight. When you visualize losing your health, you find yourself more grateful for the simple ability to walk. By meditating on death and loss, you learn how to truly live. You stop being a trembling leaf at the mercy of fate, and you become the rock that the waves break against. Do not fear the shadows. walk into them, rehearse the struggle. And when the world finally tries to break you, it will find that you are already made of iron. Chapter 4: The Anchor of the Present Moment. Anxiety is a traveler. It cannot survive in the here and now. To exist, it must pull you into a time that does not yet exist. It is a parasite that feeds on the what if, and it starves when confronted with the what is. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher king, spent his life in the midst of chaos, plagues, wars, and political betrayals. His secret to staying sane was a mental tether he called limiting yourself to the present. He wrote, "Forget the future. When the time comes, you will meet it with the same equipment. For now, do not let your imagination overstep the bounds of reality. Think of your life as a long, heavy chain. If you try to lift the entire chain at once, the miles of iron stretching into the past, and the miles extending into the future, you will be crushed by the weight. You will feel weak, overwhelmed, and paralyzed. But you are not required to lift the whole chain. You are only required to hold the single link that is in your hands right now. Look at this moment. This exact second. Is there anything in this second that you cannot endure? In this breath, are you safe? In this heartbeat, do you have the strength to survive? The answer is always yes. We can endure almost anything for a single minute. Anxiety happens when we try to endure 10 years of potential problems in a single moment of thought. It is the stacking of weights that hasn't happened yet that breaks our backs. The Stoics use the present moment as an anchor. When the sea of the future gets rough, you drop the anchor. You focus on the immediate, physical reality around you. Focus on the weight of your body against the chair, the temperature of the air on your skin, the sound of the clock ticking or the wind outside. These are facts. They are solid. They are real. The fear that you might lose your house in 6 months is not a fact. It is a story. The fear that people are judging you is not a fact. It is a projection. When you return to the now, you reclaim your power. In the future, you are a victim of chance. In the present, you are a master of action. If there is a problem right now, you can address it. If there is no problem right now, there is nothing to worry about. Practice the dismantling of time. Whenever you feel the fog of anxiety rolling in, say to yourself, I am not in next week. I am not in next year. I am here. Break the day down into tiny, manageable segments. Do not think about finishing the project. Think about typing the next sentence. Do not think about surviving the crisis. Think about taking the next step. By shrinking your world to the size of the present moment, you make it small enough to manage. You find that the unbearable becomes bearable. The impossible becomes a series of small, logical tasks. The future is a ghost. The past is a memory. The present is the only place where you are truly alive, and the only place where you are truly safe. Anchor yourself here, and the storm can do nothing but roar. Chapter 5: Stoic Indifference. Much of our anxiety stems from a simple, tragic mistake. We label things as evil that are merely inconvenient. We treat a loss of reputation, a dip in the stock market, or a physical illness as if they are stains upon our very soul. Because we view these things as bad, we live in a state of constant terror that they might happen. The Stoics introduced a concept that acts as a shield against this terror. They called it adiaphora, or indifference. Now, indifference, in the Stoic sense, does not mean you don't care. It means you understand that these things are indifferent to your ability to live a virtuous life. They divided the world into 3 categories: the good, the bad, and the indifferent. The only good is virtue, your wisdom, your justice, your courage. The only bad is vice, your ignorance, your cowardice, your cruelty. Everything else, wealth, health, fame, poverty, and even death itself, falls into the category of the indifferent. Within that category, they made a final distinction: preferred and dispreferred. It is perfectly natural to prefer health over sickness. It is logical to prefer wealth over poverty. But the Stoic secret is this: While we prefer these things, we do not require them for our happiness. Think of how much anxiety would vanish if you truly believe this. If you lose your job, it is dispreferred, but it is not bad. Why? Because you can still be a person of integrity while unemployed. If you get sick, it is dispreferred, but it is not bad, because you can still exercise patience and courage while in bed. Anxiety is the fear of losing a good. But if the only good is your own character, then no one and nothing can take it from you. You are the only person who can damage your soul. When you stop labeling external events as catastrophes, you take away their power to make you tremble. You move from a state of, I must have this, to, I would like to have this, but if I don't, I will still be whole. The person who must be rich is always anxious, because wealth can be stolen. The person who prefers to be rich, but is indifferent to it, is at peace. They enjoy their wealth while they have it, and they do not mourn it when it is gone. Practice this relabeling today. When a situation goes wrong, do not say, this is a disaster. Say, this is dispreferred. By changing the word, you change the chemical reaction in your brain. You move from the panic of the victim to the evaluation of the philosopher. You realize that the storm may take your umbrella, it may take your coat, and it may even take your house, but it can never touch the person standing inside the storm. You are enough, exactly as you are, regardless of what fate provides or withholds. Chapter 6: The Anatomy of Judgment. If you were to take a walk through a forest and a sudden thunderstorm broke out, you might feel wet, and you might feel cold. But would you feel offended? Would you feel wronged by the clouds? Would you feel anxious that the rain has a personal vendetta against you? Of course not. You accept the rain as a natural phenomenon. You might seek shelter, but your soul remains calm. Now, compare that to how you feel when a colleague speaks a sharp word to you, or when you receive an unexpected bill. You feel a surge of anxiety. You feel a wrongness in the universe. What is the difference? The rain and the sharp word are both just external events, vibrations in the air and water falling from the sky. The difference lies entirely in your judgment. The Stoic teacher Epictetus famously said, "It is not things that disturb us, but our judgments about things." Between every event in the world and your emotional reaction to it, there is a tiny, hidden space. In that space lives your judgment. It is the split-second translation your brain performs. The event, you make a mistake on a project. The judgment, I am a failure. I will be fired. Everyone will know I'm a fraud. The emotion, paralyzing anxiety. The anxiety does not come from the mistake. It comes from the story you told yourself about the mistake. Imagine you are wearing a pair of tinted glasses. If the lenses are red, the whole world looks like it's on fire. If the lenses are blue, the world looks cold. You spend your life reacting to the colors you see, forgetting that the colors aren't in the world, they are in your glasses. Anxiety is the result of wearing catastrophe glasses. You have trained your mind to take neutral facts and tint them with the color of disaster. The Stoic practice is to strip the color from the event. When something happens that triggers your fear, stop and describe it in the most boring, objective language possible. Instead of saying, "My bank account is dangerously low," say, "The number in the digital ledger is smaller than it was yesterday." Instead of saying, "She hates me," say, "She spoke 3 sentences with a sharp tone." By stripping away the value judgments, the good, the bad, the scary, you return the event to its natural state. You realize that the event itself is harmless. It is only your opinion of it that has the power to make you shake. You have the sovereign power to withdraw your judgment. You can look at a problem and say, "This is happening, but it is not a disaster." When you change the judgment, the anxiety has nothing to hold on to. It slips away like water off a stone. You are no longer a victim of the world. You are the editor of your own experience. Today, watch your labels. Catch yourself when you use words like terrible, awful, or unbearable. Replace them with happening, unexpected, or challenging. Master your judgments, and you will master your world. Chapter 7: Radical Acceptance. The greatest fuel for anxiety is the war we wage against it. When we feel the heart begin to race, when the palms get sweaty, our first instinct is to panic about the panic. We say to ourselves, I shouldn't feel this way. Why am I so weak? I need this to stop right now. By resisting the anxiety, you create a double arrow effect. The first arrow is the anxiety itself. The second arrow is your hatred of the anxiety. It is the second arrow that truly poisons the soul. The Stoic answer to this struggle is a more fatty, the love of fate. Not just the love of external events, but the love of your internal state. Imagine you are standing in the ocean. If you try to push back against a massive wave, it will knock you down and tumble you through the sand. But if you dive into the wave, if you become one with its motion, you emerge on the other side calm and unscathed. Radical acceptance means diving into the wave of your own fear. When the anxiety arrives, instead of clenching your teeth, open your arms. Say to the sensation, welcome. You are here. You are part of the human experience. I accept you. This is not a sign of defeat, it is a sign of supreme confidence. You are so secure in your inner fortress that you can allow the guest of fear to sit at your table without it bothering you. You realize that a feeling is just a feeling, it is not a command, and it is not a reality. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that everything that happens is as natural as the rose in spring. This includes your own emotions. Your nervous system is doing exactly what it was evolved to do. It is trying to protect you. It is misfiring, yes, but its intention is survival. When you stop treating your anxiety as an enemy, it loses its teeth. Try this the next time the shadows close in. Do not try to breathe it away. Do not try to distract yourself. Simply sit with it. Observe the physical sensations as if you were a scientist studying a strange weather pattern. Ah, there is the tightness in the chest. There is the heat in the neck. By observing it, you create distance. You are the observer. The anxiety is the observed. And the observer is always larger than the thing it watches. Amor fati is the ultimate yes to life. It says that I love this moment because it is happening. I love this challenge because it is mine. If fate has given you a morning of anxiety, use it. Use it to practice your courage. Use it to practice your detachment. Turn the lead of your dread into the gold of your endurance. When you truly accept your fate, you become untouchable. For how can the world hurt a man who has decided that everything, even his own discomfort, is exactly what he wanted? Stop fighting the current. Stop wishing for a different mind. Love the mind you have, in all its complexity and its struggle. In that love, the fear finally finds nowhere to hide. Chapter 8: Physical Hardening. We often treat anxiety as a purely mental problem, a glitch in our thoughts. But anxiety lives in the flesh. It is a physical alarm, triggered by a nervous system that has become too sensitive. In our modern world of climate-controlled rooms, soft beds, and instant gratification, we have accidentally trained our bodies to view any discomfort as a threat. The Stoics practiced ascesis, physical training. They knew that if you voluntarily subject your body to hardship, you toughen the container of the soul. When you prove to your body that it can handle cold, hunger, or fatigue, you are sending a message to your brain. I am not fragile. I am not easily broken. Seneca advised his friend Lucilius to set aside a certain number of days each month to practice poverty. He told him to wear coarse clothing and eat only the plainest food, all while asking himself, is this the condition I so feared? This is the secret to physical hardening. Most of our anxiety is a fear of discomfort. We fear being cold, being hungry, or being tired. But when you choose these things on your own terms, they lose their power over you. Take the cold shower, for example. As you stand before the freezing water, your mind screams, no! That scream is the voice of anxiety. It is the same voice that tells you not to speak up in a meeting or not to take a risk. When you step into that water anyway, you are practicing the Pause. You are proving that you can feel a threat and choose your response regardless. You are training your nervous system to stay calm while the body is under stress. Musonius Rufus, the teacher of Epictetus, argued that a philosopher's body must be well prepared for labor. Not for the sake of vanity or sport, but so that the body does not become a traitor to the mind when times get tough. If your body is spoiled, it will demand your attention at the first sign of trouble. It will panic. It will shake. It will cloud your judgment. But a body that has been hardened by discipline is a silent servant. It stays steady so the mind can stay clear. You don't need a mountain to climb or a marathon to run. You can practice this in small ways every day. Skip a meal to remember that hunger is just a sensation, not an emergency. Walk in the rain without an umbrella to remember that you are not made of sugar. Sit on the floor instead of the couch to remember that comfort is a luxury, not a necessity. Every time you choose the harder path, you are draining the swamp of your anxiety. You are building biological confidence. When the world eventually throws a real hardship your way, you will look at it and realize, I have been here before. I have felt this cold. I have felt this strain. And I am still standing. A warrior does not wait for the war to begin their training. They train in times of peace so that the war finds them ready. Harden the body, and you will find that the mind follows. You are building a fortress of bone and muscle that the whispers of fear cannot penetrate. Chapter 9: The Cosmic Perspective. Most of our anxiety is the result of a zoomed-in life. We live with our faces pressed against the glass of our own problems. When we are worried about a bill, a deadline, or a social slight, that event fills our entire field of vision. It becomes the whole world. It feels huge, because we have forgotten how large the universe is. The Stoics practiced a technique called subspecie eternitatis, looking at things under the aspect of eternity. They would mentally lift themselves off the ground, higher and higher, until they could see their city, then their country, then the earth, then the vast, silent void of the stars. Marcus Aurelius often wrote about the view from above. He looked at the millions of people who lived before him, the emperors, the slaves, the famous, and the forgotten. He realized that they all had urgent problems. They all had anxieties that kept them awake at night. And now, they are all dust. Their names are gone. Their catastrophes are forgotten. Your anxiety requires you to believe that your current moment is of supreme, cosmic importance. But from the perspective of the stars, your disaster is a microscopic event on a tiny blue dot in the corner of an infinite galaxy. This is not meant to make your life feel meaningless. It is meant to make your fears feel weightless. If you were a giant standing on the moon, looking down at Earth, would you be worried about an awkward email? If you were a being that lived for 10,000 years, would you be trembling over a mistake made in a Tuesday afternoon meeting? Of course not. When you adopt the cosmic perspective, you realize that you are part of a vast, ancient process. You are a single wave in a boundless ocean. The wave rises, and then it falls. This is the nature of things. There is no need to scream as the wave breaks, for the ocean remains. Anxiety is an ego problem. It is the belief that the universe revolves around our comfort and our success. The cosmic perspective is the cure for the ego. It reminds us that we are guests in this universe, staying for a very brief time. Tonight, look up at the night sky. Realize that the light hitting your eyes from those stars started its journey thousands of years ago. Those stars don't care about your to-do list. They don't care about your reputation. They simply are. When you align yourself with that vast silence, your anxiety loses its voice. You find a peace that comes from being small. Because if you are small, your problems are smaller. And if your problems are smaller, they are manageable. Rest in the magnitude of the cosmos. Realize that in the grand tapestry of time, this moment is but a single thread. It is okay to let go. It is okay to be still. The universe is large enough to hold you. Chapter 10: The Discipline of Courage. We have reached the final pillar. We have mapped the mind, hardened the body, and looked at the stars. But knowledge without action is merely a dream. You can read every book on Stoicism and memorize every quote by Marcus Aurelius. But if you do not step into the arena, you are still a prisoner of your fear. The Stoic definition of courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is the decision that something else is more important than fear. Anxiety wants you to stay in the waiting room of life. It tells you, wait until you feel ready. Wait until the conditions are perfect. Wait until you aren't afraid anymore. The Stoic knows that ready is a lie. If you wait until you aren't afraid, you will wait until the day you die. Action is the ultimate cure for anxiety. When you act, you move from the imagination, where fear is infinite, to reality, where problems are finite. Think of a cold lake. As long as you stand on the shore, the water is a terrifying idea. You imagine the shock, the cold, the struggle. But the moment you jump in, the idea of the cold vanishes. It is replaced by the sensation of the water. You begin to swim. You begin to move. Your body adapts. Anxiety is the shore. Action is the water. Every time you do the thing you are afraid of, you kill a piece of that fear. You prove to your brain that the catastrophe it predicted did not happen. You are building evidence-based confidence. The discipline of courage means choosing the virtuous action over the safe path. When you feel that familiar tightening in your throat before a difficult task, recognize it. That is your cue. That is the signal that the training has begun. Instead of retreating, lean in. Do the task poorly if you have to. Speak with a shaking voice if you must. But do the thing. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself. It is not death that a man should fear, but he should fear never beginning to live. Every time you let anxiety stop you from acting, you are choosing a small, slow death. You are trading your potential for a false sense of security. But when you act in spite of fear, you are truly alive. You are claiming your seat among the masters of your own fate. You now have the 10 pillars of the fortress of the mind. You know that fear is a ghost. You have defined your shadows. You have rehearsed the worst. You have anchored yourself in the now. You have realized that external things are indifferent. You have mastered your judgments. You have accepted your fate. You have hardened your body. You have looked at the cosmos. And now, you act? The fortress is built. But a fortress is not a place to hide. It is a base from which to launch your life. Go out into the world today. Do not ask for an easy life. Ask for the strength to endure a difficult one. Do not ask for the end of fear. Ask for the courage to face it. The world is waiting for the person you are becoming. Finally, the unshakable soul. This concludes our journey through the fortress of the mind. You have the tools. You have the map. The transition from a life of anxiety to a life of stoic peace does not happen overnight. It is a daily practice. It is a choice you make every time you wake up and every time you feel the world pushing against you. If this series has helped you find your center, I invite you to stay with us on this path. Return to these chapters whenever the fog returns. Let these words be the voice of reason when your own mind becomes loud. The journey continues. Be still. Be brave. Be free.